there's been quite a few live things to watch recently. I'm not sure if you watched Glastonbury. Wimbledon's on at the moment. You got the cricket, and I just wanted to, speak about actually some of the camera angles and some of the creative decisions that I've noticed on certain bits. I've actually been really impressed with that. I don't know about you, Cam, but I saw a bit of Andy Murray's match before he got knocked out. And I loved some of the camera footage from the actual net when you see him running up and hitting a half volley or something. And I was just like, that's really, really cool. And obviously the Guns N' Roses set on Glasto. Yes, before anyone complains, I know Axel wasn't his best, but he's running around at 61 like he's doing a bleep test, so it was pretty impressive to me. But some of the camera footage on it was just amazing. There's a couple of good shots of Slash which I thought was really cool, and I noticed it when there was a shot of him playing guitar and he has these mirrored aviators on. And you could almost see the colors in his aviators. And then they flick back to another member band, and then they flick back to Slash because someone had obviously seen it, and they zoomed in on his face, and you can see the crowd in his sunglasses. It was only like a split second. It's like, yeah, that's a great shot. And then there was another one, and it was just like the sort of the creative decisions that were made. Again, Slash, he was playing. They can walk to sort of the side of the stage, and where the camera was, you could just see him and then the vastness of the crowd. So it was almost like rule of thirds. So the crowd really taking the sky and the crowd taking most of the shot, and then there's just this little silhouette of Slash, which is so iconically recognizable anyway. And I just thought there was some brilliant bits of footage. Which I just want to, we do like to sort of recognize these things when we see it, and it's great to see.
I always think that when you watch stuff like this year on year, you see how things change and improve. And I actually sort of really pick up on stuff like that because it's a great way to learn. Because these guys I think they're right at the leading edge. They're at the front line for creativity. And I think and as photographers and videographers, we all ought to watch how they're doing it, because it's not just the actual filming, the angles. It's the guys in the production that are geniuses. It's just as you were saying there with Slash, when that guy must have clocked right, with those aviators he was wearing, and right, let's switch back to that. They're working at 100 miles an hour in those studios that they're working in, those guys that are filming. And
it's pretty much live as well, isn't it? I know there's a 15-minute delay from broadcast to the show starts 15 minutes earlier than the broadcast, but for them, they're working on it live.
They are. Yeah, they've not got the time to think that. I mean, theirs is really down to, I think it's just cutting really out sort of profanities and things like that. I think it's for that delay.
But they didn't do a very good job with Guns N' Roses on that.
No, I know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it was after 10 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think. So I noticed that when it was the World Cup. Was it last year? I've got to remember. It was December, wasn't it? The World Cup, November, December. In Qatar. I remember mentioning to you at the time, which I didn't like, how they were doing film shots of the crowd, and they were starting to use that depth of field and those cinema cameras and where
I spoke about that. I spoke about that about the NFL. A couple of years ago now, I think it was. So it's just low depth of field. It's all it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
low depth of field.
And I have to be honest, I don't like that, and I still don't like it. For me, it's just they were almost trying to be too clever and too sort of arty with it, and I'm just thinking, no,
I love it.
I don't think it works. But it's good because different people like different things, and they're trying things. For me, it didn't work then, and I don't think it worked then. But I noticed that they weren't using it as much because I've been watching some of the Ashes, the cricket that's been going on as well, and not only is the coverage, I've noticed the coverage of the cricket is one thing that you do realise changes. It improves every single year, but you see it with the graphics that these guys are using on the screen and the stats that they show. That all changes as well. And everything's becoming more immersive. The camera angles are different. They've got camera angles. They've got the cameras that go over the glides over the top.
I love those.
Come down right almost onto the ground. They really almost, I've not got a huge TV at home, but you can imagine having a massive screen at home. You really are. I mean, TV is an entertainment is moving towards sort of that whole immersive experience where I think you are literally going to be there. And that's where I think that's where TV and movies will go, where when you do watch something in the future, it's like VR headsets really, but it will be, you just put your TV on and you're surrounded by the visuals. I think that's where, that's almost what they're trying to do now. They want us to make us feel such a part of it now. And I think Glastonbury and the Ashes cricket, the tennis, as you were saying, the angles with at the net,
Yeah.
they're just getting more and more sort of immersive. It's great. And the quality of the stuff that they're putting out, the quality imagery is brilliant. We're not looking at substandard imagery here. I mean, they're using such they're using equipment that's right there at the top of the game.
State of the art. Yeah, absolutely. And just the thing about that low depth of field footage, I mean, I have actually noticed it. I'm sure, I can't remember if it was a sporting headline but I'm sure they're starting to use it in the news as well with the presenter.
They are.
Yeah, they're seeing it, and the background's out of focus. I really like it. I really do. Well, it's a good talking point, I guess.
So I've noticed on some of the news coverage channels, whether it's BBC here in the UK, whether it's ITV or Sky or something, that sometimes they'll send a news reporter out somewhere, and you can see that the camera guy is trying to be a bit creative. He's got a different type of camera or something, and they've dropped the background out of focus, and a news reporter is just standing there talking to camera. And for me, it doesn't work. I think it needs to just be a static shot, background focus.
I guess some of it is to do with it's so much better having that out of focus background than it is when you're blurring people's faces out, which is something that people now have to do.
Yes.
I mean, I remember even in the 2000s, I walked past a news reporter, just a local news reporter when I was still living in Derby. And I got several text messages on my phone later on that day. Oh, hello, Mr. Famous Guy. Hello, Mr. Famous. Because, people had seen me just walk by in the background. You don't get that anymore. Everyone, the faces are blurred out. So I'm guessing using that low depth of field will just blur them out anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I guess that does help with post.
I guess it does, but I guess it's more a look that they're going for. But I would say that anyone, if any of you are watching any live event, whether it's the cricket, the tennis in the summer here, there's going to be. I was there at the Isle of Wight festival was on the week before Glastonbury. Is pay a little bit more attention. In fact, pay a lot more attention to the way that they are actually being filmed, and also the sound quality as well is getting so much better. It does, it's going to with technology, and you watch it, they're going to come out with new ideas and new things now. I was sitting watching Glastonbury, and I watched quite a bit of it again this year. And I was sitting thinking to myself that I know that when you're actually at the event, it's always going to be, it's going to be much better. But I was actually thinking when I was watching it, thinking, do you know what? It is so much more comfortable watching it from home, because the way it's actually filmed now, the way that it's actually broadcast, and because we've got our TVs are so much better at home, and we've got sound bars, everything, you almost sort of think, not in a, no, I can't be bothered type of go. I'm an armchair fan. It's not that at all. But do you know what? It is great watching at home because you can really get into it purely because of the way technology has moved on with cameras and lenses and production and editing techniques. But Mark, now, having spoken about sort of Glastonbury and the Ashes and the tennis and how things are being filmed at events, one of our listeners, Craig, sent us an email recently about a story that he'd come across and said, "Why, would this be worth talking about?" And we looked at it and we thought, "Wow, this is really good," because there's a real lesson here for every photographer and every videographer listening out there.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about how great some of this footage is, and as you do have to bear a thought about the people on the ground who are giving us this footage, because actually it can be quite dangerous, I suppose, in a certain way. But to cut to the chase with this story, there was a photographer who was covering a baseball game. Now, you have to bear with me, I don't know that much about baseball, but the game, is it a game match? I don't know. Anyway, he was covering the Pittsburgh Pirates versus the Miami Marlins, and it was an MLB game in Florida, and there was a foul ball that was hit. I don't even know really what a foul ball is, but nevertheless, I'm assuming someone hit it badly. But this foul ball, nevertheless, was traveling from the bat at 104 miles per hour and actually hit this photographer's lens. Now, the photographer, I'd say, was Jim Rassel. The lens in question was a Sony 400mm f2.n lens valued at $12,000. And this ball went full ball straight into the end of the lens. Now, like you said, Cam, it was Craig that sent us this email, but he did send us a link, and the link is from Petapixel, so best give them a shout. But yeah, it was a crazy thing. And there is a certain lesson to be learned here, Cam, isn't there?
There is indeed. Now, just before we jump onto that lesson, one thing I will, because you were saying you didn't know anything about baseball, and you made it perfectly clear in your description that you don't know anything about baseball, but I don't know anything about baseball either. Now, but I've been watching a lot of the Ashes, the cricket here in the UK, and the fast bowlers are bowling anything between about 85 and 98 miles an hour, something like that. Whoa. So this baseball has gone in at 104 miles into his camera. Now, there is a story here. There is a lesson to be learned here. Obviously, you're going to need to protect your gear. And in these situations, you never know what's going to happen. But let's talk about insurance. Did the photographer have adequate insurance, Mark? You would have thought so, because he was probably, if he's a freelancer, he must have done. You're not going to buy a lens, are you? Worth that much and not have insurance, or was he covered by the company that he was working for? Was he on a shoot? So obviously he had insurance, didn't he?
Just to say as well, baseballs apparently this is a regular thing, right? So baseballs will sometimes hit broadcast cameras during games, apparently.
Right. Okay.
But those cameras are often equipped with filters that protect the actual lens element.
I get that.
So while expensive, those collisions don't usually end up with completely destroyed lens, which is what's happened here. It is far more uncommon for a baseball to hit a photographer's lens. So he was a photographer. He wasn't a videographer.
Broadcaster.
He wasn't a broadcaster. No.
Yeah.
So especially considering that most are in the photo pits and at some level of protection, which prevents this sort of situation happening, basically, according to Petapixel. But there was actually, with this post, there was an update, and actually turns out that Russell's equipment wasn't insured.
It wasn't insured.
It was not insured. So the lens is a total personal loss. A group of his fellow photojournalists have launched a crowdfunding campaign to help him replace the lens, and apparently it's received an impressive amount of support thus far. It's a freak accident, Jim says. Jim Russell, the photographer, he said, freak accident. He's worked every day grinding out mostly sports assignments for wire services after leaving the South Florida Sun Sentinel. So he was obviously Sun Sentinel must be a magazine, a paper or something. So the South Florida Sun Sentinel senior photographer, yes. So he used to work there. He's a freelancer now. And of course, he has to supply his own equipment, including computer and software. But all my stuff is insured. I don't know about you, but I've also got personal liability, personal indemnity. I've got all of that stuff.
I wonder if he just overlooked it, or whether it was just one of those things that he'd forgotten to do, or just think, he'd bought it and just didn't think. You never think it's going to happen to you, which is why we all have insurance, don't we? I'm sure I'll be fine with it. I'll pack it away carefully, put it in my bag, but we're going to be an event, and so anyway, a lesson to be learned there for everyone is make sure that your insurance, that your gear is actually insured. And that has reminded me, because I think I do need to do some checks as well, because I had an email a few days ago saying that your insurance is due for renewal. So I'm going to ask them to send me a list of what's insured and what isn't insured. I think I do need to update that. I know I do. So interesting there, and interesting lesson for all of us.